Is Vince McMahon secretly back in charge of WWE Creative? And the date of a huge AEW title match has been confirmed. But first, news recently broke that Matt Jackson, who makes up one half of the Young Bucks, had suffered from a partially torn bicep during the recent three-way trios match for the AEW Trios Championships, which will result in him stepping away from in-ring action. On top of this, Jackson has chosen not to undergo surgery as to be able to return quicker, this according to Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio. Well, we have another update on Matt's situation, this time via Fightful Select, who would today reveal that despite the injury, AEW sources have indicated that there's a good chance he will remain on television in a non-wrestling capacity as to further the Elite's ongoing storyline with Hangman Page. It's not entirely clear how long Matt will be out of action for, however, typically torn triceps can take several months to heal depending on the severity of the case. As we covered in a recent free agents list, and make sure you check that out if you haven't done so already, there are many top talents available on the market today. Two of those names are former New Japan Pro Wrestling stars Kota Ibushi and Jay White, whose deals expired with the company earlier this year. There has been much talk about what their future could hold, whether it be in WWE, AEW, or elsewhere, with this now having an update on the status of both men. First, let's start with Switchblade, as after a previous report from Give Me Sport that revealed WWE's creative team have been tasked with coming up with ideas for his debut were he to sign, it's now been revealed that the confidence of this happening is growing stronger and stronger. WrestleVotes would tell Give Me Sport that the longer White doesn't appear in All Elite Wrestling, the more confident WWE get. The feeling is also that White has already made up his mind, with his decision set to be made clear pretty soon. The confidence regarding the aforementioned Kota Ibushi isn't quite so high, as WrestleVotes would add that the feeling is that the Golden Star does not want to sign a full-time contract, whether that be with WWE or AEW. The report concludes by stating that the chances are WWE will sign White but not Ibushi, although there is always a chance that Jay could end up deciding to go with AEW. The race to buy WWE is beginning to heat up as WrestleMania approaches, which could prove as a pivotal time for negotiations. According to a fresh report from Fightful Select, several sources within WWE have indicated that the timing of their big show hands them a positive strategic situation when it comes to sale talks and possible broadcast rights renewals. The report would discuss a couple of names in the hat for the buyout, starting with Comcast, who owns the USA Network, and Peacock, who of course already air WWE programming. They would note that those within Comcast believe that were a deal to be made, there would be no desire to keep Vince McMahon in charge of the company, something many expect to be on the table on WWE's side of the talks. It was also revealed that numerous sources related to rumored buyers think that a return for Stephanie McMahon could be a desirable move. As for another potential buyer, Disney, one source from within the organization revealed that possible buyers are doing their due diligence in order to keep their finger on the pulse of the business, and told Fightful, "These companies are doing their due diligence, they're following the news cycles regardless of their public levels of interest. They're aware of things that would make audiences and staff happy. She seemed to bring a lot of positive to the company." Finally, it was said that a potential buyout via a broadcast company could be a huge shot in the arm in terms of streaming services, i.e. Disney Plus or similar, due to the fact that current broadcast deals for Raw, SmackDown, premium live events, and more are all up almost at the exact same time, which would lead to a huge influx of content for whoever comes out on top. Regarding Vince McMahon, who we have more on later in the video, virtually every source that Fightful spoke to within the companies that are linked with the purchase were in agreement that if Vince demanded to remain involved in running of the company post-buyout, it would negatively affect the sale price, leverage, and value of the brand moving forward. And speaking of people involved in the takeover, WWE CEO and President Nick Khan would speak on The Herd this week, where he was asked about the company's creative plans following this weekend's WrestleMania Hollywood event. Khan would note that WWE currently have storylines in place months in advance, with them knowing exactly where they're heading following the showcase of the Immortals, and he would say, months in advance, months in advance. If you say now, where is the creative team with their process? They are months ahead of WrestleMania. Obviously, a huge focus on Saturday and Sunday to make sure we can execute what the plan is, but they're months ahead and they know that's the way it should be because 52 weeks a year, 3 to 4 programs a week, if you're not months ahead, you're gonna get caught. Wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer would hit the headlines this week following a post that he made on the Wrestling Observer forums regarding the absent CM Punk. Meltzer would claim that Punk was uncooperative in the lead up to the AEW World Championship match with Jon Moxley on the August 24th edition of Dynamite, with him failing to mention an all-important detail to the story. After the story was picked up by media outlets, Punk would take to his Instagram story to note that his reluctance to do the match was down to not being cleared to wrestle at the time. Well, Meltzer would speak with Post Wrestling in the aftermath of the drama, where the Punk situation was discussed. Dave would say that because the post was on his forum and not through Twitter, the Wrestling Observer newsletter, or his audio show, he didn't feel the need to go into all of the details behind the story and said, "The only thing I feel guilty about is that when I wrote that, I should have mentioned he's also coming off an injury because that kind of gave him the open. It's like, hey, he didn't even mention I was injured. I want to always do a thorough job, obviously, and if this was in the Wrestling Observer, I would have written the whole thing as it was in the context that it deserved, and this was just like a flippant thing." The topic of his sources then came up, something Punk has made attempts to narrow down during his engagements with the media as of late, accusing both the Elite and Chris Jericho of leaking lies about him to Dave Meltzer. Interestingly, Dave would admit that he feels certain unnamed people do take advantage of the fact that he will never reveal his sources publicly, and said, "I want to tell you something, okay? I will never reveal my sources, but man, there are certain people who I think take tremendous advantage of me, knowing that I won't. You can say, people who are trying to push a narrative while at the same time being the exact opposite. So that is very frustrating. That's a weird one, and that's actually something that honestly, it's only really happened in the last year." And before we continue, why not drop a like down below if you're enjoying the video, and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss the latest wrestling news, as we try to reach 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. But with that said, let's get to the next story. Now let's get to more information regarding the current status of Vince McMahon, who would recently return to duty in order to pursue a sale of WWE. Whilst the public stance is that McMahon is only back to lead takeover talks, there is concern within the locker room that he has a bigger say in the on-screen creative process than the company are leading on. This was something discussed in the Fightful Select report that we discussed earlier, with them raising some red flags that are coming out of the company. Talent have told Fightful that as of late, there has been an increase in script rewrites the day of shows, something that was common under the previous regime and was something that was relaxed when Triple H took over creative. There's also been some strong indicators of characters and gimmicks being adjusted to a manner in which McMahon had previously preferred. With that said, those on the creative team itself have insisted that they haven't had direct contact with Vince McMahon recently and haven't been told of any changes that were ordered by him. On the other side of the coin, a lack of constant rematches is a common Vince trope that hasn't been present on screen as of late, with there being no true smoking gun to point to his creative leadership. The report would conclude that if it were to emerge that Vince was fully back in charge, this would be a huge blow to talent morale, and there appears to be some concern that this could be true. It was also noted that the possibility of McMahon being back in charge has been a topic of conversation within the AEW locker room too. Last week on AEW Dynamite, AEW Tag Team Champions The Guns would make clear to former champions FTR that under no circumstances were they willing to give them another title shot. This before Dax Harwood made them an offer they couldn't refuse. Harwood would state that if he and Cash failed to win, they would leave AEW and bring an end to their career in the company. This revelation came off the back of news that FTR's contracts are set to expire in April, with the stipulation perhaps being a way to write them off of television. Well, we now have an official date for the match, as Tony Khan would take to Twitter today to reveal that the All or Nothing bout will take place on next week's AEW Dynamite at the UBS Arena in New York. The announcement squashes any rumors of FTR appearing in WWE at WrestleMania or the Raw after Mania, were they to be on the losing side, as fans await to find out what their futures hold. And before you go, make sure you check out the 10 free agents that are set to shake up WrestleMania season.